Think I owe her £10,000 compensation because her son grew up to be a thug, just like I said he would. By user revolutionary_ant209. Apologies, but this one's long as there is some context to get out of the way. Years ago, my cousin, Lucy, and I had a strained relationship because she let her son, Damien, do anything he wanted, never punished him, and brushed away anything he ever did as boys will be boys or he's just a kid, etc. It came to a breaking point between us when Lucy and Damien were visiting years ago. Damien was 12 at the time, and my daughter, Maggie, was 9. Maggie was sitting happily playing her Xbox in her bedroom upstairs. While Lucy and I were talking, Damien got bored and wandered off. A few minutes later and I hear screaming and crying. I rush up to Maggie's room to find her on the floor, blood all over her face, while Damien is just casually playing the Xbox. It turns out he came up and demanded a turn on the Xbox. Maggie said sure, just let me finish the level. So he snatched the controller from her hand and smashed her around the face with it, then shoved her out of the way. I rushed her to the hospital. Luckily it looked worse than it was, and there was no lasting damage, and I live in the UK so no medical bills. But I was furious. I told Lucy what Damien did and she shrugged and said, you know how boys are with their video games, she should have just let him play. I told her in no uncertain terms that she and her son were not allowed anywhere near me or my family. We got into a huge fight over this, where she of course tried to absolve her little angel of anything. So I lost it and told her if she didn't discipline him and teach him boundaries, she would end up raising a monster who would grow up to be a thug or worse, which infuriated her. This caused fallout with the family for years, largely because Lucy lied and told everyone her son and Maggie had just been play fighting and that's how she got hurt. It was just an accident and I was overreacting. After a few years, everyone forgot. I still forbade Lucy or her hellspawn from coming anywhere near me. Several other family members did the same. I can't imagine why. Fast forward to a little before the pandemic. Damien was 19. Just like I predicted, he soon learned that thanks to his mother, he was bulletproof as she would never believe he did anything wrong. So his behavior got worse and worse, to the point where he was kicked out of every school in the area and had to go to special school. I got a call from Frank, Lucy's brother, telling me Lucy had been rushed to hospital, that he knows we don't talk, but Lucy was seriously hurt and he wanted to let me know. Despite our history, I went to visit Lucy, accompanied by Frank and his wife. Before this we had been really close and I was upset to hear she was hurt. When I got there, I was shocked by what I saw. She was really banged up, her face swollen, bruises all up her arms. It turned out Damien had done this. She was really struggling for money, and he refused to get a job, so she finally tried to lay down the law and tell him to get a job or she was throwing him out, so he attacked her. Almost dislocated her jaw. It was horrific. Now, we had a history, but at this point none of that mattered. I was worried and sad for her. I immediately asked her if she needed help with anything. She seemed surprised, but we ended up all having a really heartwarming chat, with her saying how much it meant to her that I came to see her. I thought maybe we were turning a corner and could repair our relationship. We had been really close as kids. Oh, how wrong I was. A few weeks later, I started getting blasted on social media and getting nasty messages and texts telling me what an awful person I was and how could I do what I did to Lucy. I was confused. I hadn't done anything. I called Frank. He had no idea either but said he would look into it. Turns out Lucy had told everyone I had come to the hospital and mocked her, gloating "I told you so," while she bawled her eyes out. I confronted Lucy about it, asking her how she could lie like that. She hit back that this was all my fault, it's what I deserved. If I knew this was going to happen, why didn't I do more to help her? She then demanded I pay her at least £10,000 for damages I caused. Like WTF. She lied to everyone because she couldn't stand that I had been right and decided to punish me for it. For months I endured hateful messages from family members who believed her lies. Not all my family believed her, of course, and Frank and his wife cleared things up about what really happened. He managed to record Lucy admitting that she lied, which got most off my back, but there were still a few relatives who had it in their heads that there's no smoke without fire and I must have done something to make her say what she did. But they're all distant relatives on her side, so who cares? Then the pandemic rolled around. Everyone forgot the petty squabbles Lucy and her lies caused. But, last month, we held a family gathering at my parents', the first in years due to the pandemic. Lucy showed up. Thankfully Damien was absent on account of serving a prison sentence for aggravated assault and battery, unrelated to what he did to his mother. I went to ask Lucy how she was doing. The first words out of her mouth were, "You need to pay me what you owe me. If you don't, I'm taking you to court. I need that money, it's the least you can do for ruining my life." She followed me around the party demanding I pay her, telling everyone who would listen that I had ruined her life. My, what a happy family reunion. Parents prefer incest over me being happy, by user_conscious_kiwi. I've, 21M, been in a surprisingly successful relationship for the past year and a half, ever since I moved to Europe to start my studies. Honestly didn't think I'd hold it together this long, but hey, the girl actually likes me. Shocker. She's honestly perfect. Spiritually, she is a neckbeard, and I love her for it. My parents, not so much. Not because of her personality, they don't care about little things like that. She's European, and that's the problem. My parents belong to a minority in the Middle East. We believe in a lot of things, but the kicker is that if you marry outside your faith, you get excommunicated. Disowned, not allowed back in the village, the whole shazam. And since there's so little of us, privileges are handed out so that finding the love of your life would still be possible. Dude down the street raped a child? It's fine, we'll just introduce my daughter to him, I'm sure he's a good man. Son fell in love with your niece? Ah, it's fine, matters of the heart are complicated. Your daughter fell in love with an Englishman after 8 years of living in England? Burn her at the stake. I feel like my mom genuinely thought that I was going to move back home to the village and meet someone there, like she and her siblings did, but surprise surprise, I wasn't a fan of it. Especially since her siblings consist of her sister, who married a man 20 years younger than her brother, who married his cousin, and her other brother, who's on his 3rd marriage, with a woman who can only be described as a vanilla-flavored biscuit. Ever since I got into a relationship, my parents have been relatively supportive. I feel like my mom was just glad I'm not gay, since I wasn't like the other boys in high school, and my dad, in true dad fashion, was just happy I was getting some. 1.5 years later, they started showing their concern. My dad regularly sits me down for talks about our heritage, and my mom regularly jokes about setting me up with my future bride. Whenever I bring up something remotely serious about my girlfriend, they get visibly upset. I'm in a position right now where I possibly have to move cities. The fact that I want to stay where I am because I'm not exactly enthusiastic about leaving my girlfriend and the life I've built here caused them to short-circuit. All of a sudden, my poor academic performance wasn't due to my many mental health problems or COVID or just my lack of interest in the subject, it was the witch. The witch who seduced me and led me astray. Because their golden boy is definitely incapable of making poor decisions himself. So yeah, it got to a point where they're trying their hardest to force me to move cities, just to get away from my girlfriend. They're arguing about it every phone call now, and if I just give it time, they're going to add the financial pressure on top of that. That's fun, smiley face. I just really hope they mellow out soon. If not for me, for my siblings' sakes. I'm the oldest, so I get the brunt of the generational friction, but I only hope it gets better when they get older. TLDR, my parents come from a culture that can justify incest but not marrying outside the village. I don't want to marry, and probably never will. I am only 21, but I'm in a long-term relationship, and that's Skayuwu. Edit. I did not expect this to blow up. Thanks for the words of support, and online karma. Momentary popularity on the internet definitely more than makes up for the emotional trauma. To answer some very common questions in the comments though. I am currently a student, living alone in Germany. I am reliant on my parents. I will not cut them out of my life, because I see them as victims of this too. They were brainwashed into this growing up, and I don't fault them for it. Besides this little snag, they are wonderful parents. I am trying to become more financially independent. I feel that if I could actually finance myself, I would be capable of arguing back and holding my own in a discussion, cause then I'd be an actual adult and not just someone surviving off of them. Luckily, Germany does make that very easy. For those that asked what I meant when I described my girlfriend as a neckbeard, it is honestly the most apt way to describe her. She's funny in a cursed internet kind of way. How I scored my first date with her was offering her Putin's nudes. She's Russian, which consisted of a whole couple of hours of looking at gay porn and photoshopping that onto Putin's face. My roommate walked in during that. 'Twas a funny experience. And she also introduced me to the wonderful world of hentai and started ranting about AO3 and YAOI porn while drunk one night. She's a keeper. And like most of you in the comments guessed, my parents belong to the Druze faith. Nice detective work, smiley face. Edit 2. They have recruited my 16-year-old brother to help convince me to move, since he overheard the conversation and just wants to make sure I make the right decision. Smiley face. You can be lesbian as long as the child is yours, by user Babathiantai. I did my coming out some months ago and it didn't go that bad actually, but my mother started to insist on the fact that if me and my future wife have a kid I must be the one carrying it. I told her many times that if we choose to have a kid we will adopt it, because I think it's an excellent thing to do to help an orphan. At this point she got extremely mad and she said that she won't be the grandma of a kid that is not her actual grandson. Little does she know that I don't care. In all of this I am 15, just came out as lesbian, and still single. Yet there she is talking about grandchildren. Entitled Parents ask the waiter to turn off TVs as punishment in a busy restaurant, by user YourTrishberry. So I've been on a beach house vacation with my grandparents, aunt and uncle, and cousins. My aunt and uncle have 3 kids, Elise, 10, Liam, 8, and Trevor, 6, and have a very conservative way of raising them, with only 1 hour of screen time a week for each of them. They do not have personal electronics, which I think is acceptable, but I was raised quite differently, being given an iPad at age 8, and a phone at age 11. Now in my mid-teens, I don't use my phone often but often enough for a conservative adult discomfort. I let Elise and her siblings play Minecraft for an hour on my iPad, and when my uncle found out, he was livid. He called me a bad influence and a bad cousin, and he told the kids that if they even so much as looked at a screen, he would pack them up and send them home. From North Carolina to New Hampshire, for context, never mind the fact that it's summer vacation, he went full psycho. I couldn't show the kids a photo I took of the sunrise that morning, since it was screen time and they couldn't even pass by me when I had my phone out, because entitled dad would intercept it. Now, while on their little screen ban, we went to dinner at a restaurant with TVs, football games, etc., playing in the background. Entitled parents tell the kids that if they see their eyes so much as past the TV, they will be going home. Entitled dad signals over the waiter and asks if they can turn off the TVs, since his kids misbehaved and don't deserve to have it on in their presence. The waiter gave him a weird look and told him that he'd check, code for no, and returned to the kitchen. Entitled dad asked again, and the waiter said that since there were other people in the restaurant, they could not halt the entertainment system just for them. Entitled dad sat angrily, and tried to get the rest of the family to leave, but we had already received our food so they refused. Ed was fuming, M was making sure kids didn't look at screens, still. These people are psychos, can't believe I'm related to them SMH. All I wanted to do was play Minecraft with my little cousins. Dr. Entitled parents ask the waiter to turn off TV in a busy restaurant. When the request is denied he tries to get whole family to leave in middle of meal. Are you going to let me take a picture of you in your pretty new necklace or am I going to have to take it away from you, by user_A_B_it_up. What a horrible message to teach to your young daughter. I was in line yesterday for the bathroom at the beach and this mom was there with her 5 to 7y/old daughter. Mom, are you going to let me take a picture of you in your pretty new necklace or am I going to have to take it away from you? Girl, no. Mom, okay then give the necklace to me. Girl, more panicked tone no. Mom, you have to let me take a picture of you in the necklace so I can post it for grandma and grandpa on Facebook, it's rude. And/family friend/whoever, honey you always take pictures for us come on. I found this absolutely disgusting. They are teaching this daughter that gifts come with strings attached and that her boundaries are insignificant and rude. I hope this was just a weird thing and not indicative of how she parents her poor daughter.